He was humiliated by the girl he loved 2 years later. He did something terrible to get revenge. You will never imagine what he did. Henry was a 17-year-old boy who weighed 220 pounds at school. Some mean students called him cruel names and made fun of him all the time. He often felt lonely and sad, but there was one person who always made his heart skip. Sophia, the most beautiful girl in the whole school. Henry had a big crush on her, but he never thought she would notice him. One day, something unbelievable happened. Sophia invited Henry to a party at her house. Henry was so excited, he couldn't believe it. He thought, this must be my chance. He wanted to make a great impression on her, so he rented a fancy suit and even borrowed a luxury car. He wanted everything to be perfect. In his excitement, Henry also borrowed money from his friends to buy expensive gifts for Sophia. He imagined how happy she would be when he gave her the gifts. His heart was filled with hope, thinking, maybe this is the start of something special. When the day of the party came, Henry was nervous but happy. He dressed in his new suit and drove the luxury car to Sophia's house. The house was full of students and everyone was having fun. Henry smiled shyly as he handed Sophia the gifts he had bought for her, but then something strange happened. Sophia and her friends started laughing. Henry felt his stomach twist in knots. Why are they laughing? he thought. Just then Sophia stood up and called everyone's attention. Henry's heart raced with excitement and fear. He thought she was about to say something sweet, but instead her words cut through him like a knife. It was all a bet, Sophia said with a cruel smile. We wanted to see if I could go out with the ugliest boy in school. The room burst into laughter. Henry's heart shattered. His legs felt weak and his face turned red. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. This can't be happening. He thought he wanted to disappear, to melt away into nothing. As if that wasn't enough, Sophia's real boyfriend stepped out from behind the crowd. He looked Henry up and down and sneered, do you really think you could ever afford someone as pretty as Sophia? Henry's eyes widened, his heart pounded in his chest, and tears filled his eyes. The laughter grew louder and louder, ringing in his ears. He couldn't take it anymore. Covering his face in shame, he turned and ran out of the party as fast as he could. As he ran, Henry's mind swirled with anger and humiliation. He had been crushed, and all his dreams of Sophia had been destroyed in front of everyone. But deep down, something dark started to grow inside of him, a burning desire for revenge. When Henry got home after the party, he locked his door and cried until his eyes were swollen. His heart ached with pain and embarrassment. He picked up his phone, hoping to find some comfort, but it only made things worse. Clips of the party were all over social media, and everyone was making fun of him. Henry felt like the whole world was laughing at him. His face burned with shame, but something deeper started to grow inside of him. Anger. I will get my revenge, he whispered to himself. For 2 whole weeks, Henry didn't go to school. He switched off his phone and shut himself away. Not even his few friends could reach him. He spent his days thinking about what happened and how to get back at Sophia and everyone who laughed at him. He was too ashamed to face anyone, but he couldn't hide forever. 2 weeks later, Henry decided to go back to school. But he didn't want anyone to recognize him. He went to the market and bought a mask to cover his face. He thought maybe, just maybe, the mask would help him hide from the cruel stares and laughs. When Henry walked into the classroom, his heart was pounding. He hoped no one would notice him, but as soon as he stepped inside, the room exploded with laughter. The sound of Sophia's loud laugh echoed through the halls, so loud that students in the next class could hear her. Henry felt so small, so embarrassed. He wanted to run out of the room, but how long could he keep running? He kept his head down and sat quietly at his desk, hoping the laughter would stop, but it didn't. Sophia and her friends started laughing even harder. He's wearing a mask, one of them shouted as they laughed and pointed at Henry. He felt tears burning in his eyes, but he refused to cry in front of them again. One of Sophia's friends, Sandra, smirked and decided to take the joke even further. She walked toward Henry, reaching out to pull off his mask. Henry froze, feeling his heart race with fear. He didn't know what to do, but then something unexpected happened. Emily, a quiet girl from the back of the class, suddenly grabbed Sandra's hand, stopping her from touching Henry. Emily was one of the few poor students in the school, and she had gotten in through a scholarship. Her mom worked as a househelp in Sophia's house. Emily knew the pain of being mocked and couldn't watch them humiliate Henry anymore. "Leave him alone," Emily said in a strong voice. The whole class went silent for a moment, surprised by her bravery. Emily stared at Sandra and Sophia, her eyes full of anger. "Aren't you tired of making fun of him?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly but full of courage. Sophia's face twisted with annoyance. She wasn't used to anyone standing up to her. "Shut up," Sophia snapped. "You have the guts to talk to us? I should tell the whole class that your mom works as a poor house help in my house." The class erupted into laughter again. Emily's face turned red with shame. She had never wanted to get into trouble with Sophia, but she couldn't stand by and watch Henry get humiliated. Some of the students mumbled that Sophia had gone too far, but nobody dared to speak up. When school ended that day, Henry caught up with Emily as she walked home. He felt a mix of gratitude and guilt. "Thank you," he said softly. "Thank you for standing up for me. I'm sorry about what Sophia said to you and about your mom." Emily gave a small sad smile. "It's okay," she said, unused to it. Henry looked at her, feeling ashamed of himself for once liking Sophia. He couldn't believe how cruel she really was. Can we be friends?" Henry asked hesitantly. Emily smiled warmly. "Why not?" she said. They exchanged contact information and began walking together. Just then a fancy car pulled up, and Henry recognized it as Sophia's. The driver got out and called for Emily. Henry looked confused. "Is that Sophia's driver?" he asked. Emily sighed. "Yes, but I'm not getting in." "What do you mean?" Henry asked, surprised. "You're going the same way, right?" Emily nodded. "Yes, we live in the same house, but I don't ride with her. I go to help my mom with the chores first. Sophia never lets me sit in the car with her, even though her dad told the driver to take us both home since we go to the same school." Henry's jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. Sophia was even crueler than he had thought. She refused to let Emily, whose mother worked hard in her house, ride in the same car with her. Henry watched the car drive away and felt a deep anger rising in his chest. How could someone be so heartless? He had once had a crush on Sophia, but now all he felt was disgust. Just as Henry and Emily were finishing their conversation, Henry's driver arrived. Henry smiled and turned to Emily. "Hey, do you want a ride? We can drop you off at your house." Emily's face lit up with surprise and happiness. She wasn't used to people offering her kindness like this. "Really? That would be great," she said, feeling grateful. She hopped into the car, and they drove off. As the car pulled up in front of Sophia's big fancy house, Emily thanked Henry once again and got out. "Take care, Emily," Henry said. As the car drove away, Emily waved, feeling a bit of warmth in her heart despite the rough day. But the moment she stepped into the house, that warm feeling vanished. The first thing she saw was the sitting room flooded with dirty water. Her mom was on her knees scrubbing the floor, her eyes red from crying. "Mom!" Emily rushed to her. "What happened? Who poured all this water here?" Her mother looked up, her face full of sadness, tears streaming down her cheeks. She tried to wipe them away, but more kept coming. "It was Sophia," she said, her voice trembling. "She got home a few minutes ago and started pouring water all over the place. I tried to stop her, but she didn't listen. She just kept calling me a poor cleaner and said awful things." Emily's heart filled with anger. She knew exactly why Sophia had done this. It was because of what happened at school earlier. Sophia was punishing her by humiliating her mom. Emily clenched her fists. She couldn't believe how cruel Sophia could be. "I'm going to talk to her," Emily said, standing up angrily. "She can't treat you like this." Just then, a cold laugh echoed from the stairs. Emily froze and looked up. There was Sophia standing at the top of the stairs with a cruel smile on her face. She folded her arms and looked down at them like they were nothing. "Next time you'll learn to respect the hands that feed you," Sophia said in a mocking voice. Then, without warning, she picked up a bucket filled with more water and threw it down the stairs. The water splashed all over the sitting room, making the mess even worse. Some of it splashed onto Emily's shoes and clothes. Emily's body shook with anger. She wanted to run up those stairs and confront Sophia. She wanted to yell at her, make her feel the same hurt she was causing. But just as Emily was about to charge up the stairs, her mother grabbed her arm. "Please, Emily, don't her." Mother begged, her voice weak. "It's not worth it." Emily stopped in her tracks, tears filling her eyes. She felt powerless, trapped. Sophia had all the control, and there was nothing they could do. Emily's heart ached as she looked at her mother, who was still kneeling on the floor, tired and broken from all the cleaning. Emily couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst into tears, sobbing so hard that her whole body trembled. Her mother pulled her close, hugging her tightly. "It's okay, my child," her mother whispered, even though she was crying too. "What, get through this." But as Emily cried in her mother's arms, she made a silent promise to herself. She wouldn't let Sophia get away with this forever. One day things would change. Just as Emily and her mom were finishing up the cleaning, Sophia was up to something sneaky. While they were busy, Sophia quietly went to the kitchen where Emily's mom kept her back. She peeked inside and found the house key. With a sly grin, she slipped the key into her pocket and tiptoed back upstairs without anyone noticing. Later that night, Emily and her mom were completely exhausted from all the hard work. They left Sophia's house, dragging their tired feet, wanting nothing more than to get home and rest. But when they reached their front door, they realized something terrible. They didn't have the key. "Oh no. Where's the key?" Emily's mom asked, her voice full of worry. Emily's eyes widened in panic. "Maybe we forgot it at Sophia's house," she said, her heart sinking. "I'll go back and get it, Mom. Just wait here." Emily quickly hailed a taxi and rushed back to Sophia's house. It was late, and the streets were dark and quiet. As she got closer to the house, her stomach felt uneasy, but she was determined to find the key. When she got to the front door, Emily was about to knock, but she suddenly heard voices coming from the living room. It was Sophia's parents, Mr. Michael and Mrs. Linda, talking. Emily froze. She didn't want them to see her yet, so she ducked behind a corner and listened carefully. "She's out of control." Mrs. Linda's voice sounded angry. "Sophia spent so much money on that party. Do you know she even borrowed money without telling us?" Emily's heart raced as she listened. Mr. Michael sighed deeply. "None of our kids has given us this much trouble. We regret the day we took her in after her real mother died." Emily gasped silently, her eyes wide with shock. What did they just say? She thought, Sophia isn't their real daughter. Mr. Michael continued, "We've done everything for her, but she's been nothing but trouble." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Sophia wasn't their real daughter. Her mind raced, trying to understand. She felt sorry for Sophia, but also confused by all the cruelty she had shown. Just then, Emily realized she needed to act normal. She knocked on the door and waited. When Mrs. Linda opened the door, Emily pretended she hadn't heard anything. "Good evening, ma'am," Emily said politely. "I think I forgot my mom's key here earlier." Mrs. Linda looked at her with tired eyes. "Oh, the key. Let me help you look for it." They searched around the living room and kitchen, but the key was nowhere to be found. Emily knew Sophia must have taken it, but she didn't say anything. After a while, she left the house empty-handed, her mind still spinning from the secret she had overheard on her way back home. Emily couldn't stop thinking about what Mr. Michael had said. Sophia isn't their real daughter, she repeated in her mind over and over. The girl who had caused so much trouble wasn't even part of their family by blood. When Emily finally reached home, her mom was waiting outside, shivering from the cold night air. "Did you find the key?" her mom asked, her voice hopeful. Emily shook her head sadly. "No, Mom, it wasn't there." Her mom sighed in disappointment. "It was very late, and they had no other place to go. With no choice, they had to sit outside in the corridor of their house. The night was cold, and they hugged themselves to keep warm. As they sat there, the sky grew darker, and soon heavy rain started to pour. The rain came down in sheets, soaking Emily and her mom. They curled up in the corner, their bodies trembling from the cold. Their clothes were drenched, and they had no shelter to protect them. Emily could feel her mom shivering beside her, and tears welled up in her eyes. She wished she could do something, anything, to make the situation better, but all they could do was sit there cold and wet through the long, stormy night. Back at school, Sophia's behavior was getting worse. Every day, she became even rudder, bullying her classmates and showing no respect for the teachers. No one could stand up to her, and she seemed to enjoy the fear she caused. Her laughter echoed in the halls whenever she made someone feel small. One day, Henry went to visit his cousin Kelvin. Kelvin was a rising singer, and he was slowly becoming famous. As they hung out, Kelvin showed Henry something on his phone, a new song he was working on. While they were talking, a notification popped up on Kelvin's screen. Henry glanced at it and was stunned. The message said, "Hi, I'm one of your biggest fans. Please reply me." Henry looked closer and saw who it was from. It was Sophia, the same girl who had made his life miserable. He couldn't believe it. Sophia, he thought, the same Sophia, who's always acting like she's better than everyone. Kelvin noticed Henry's expression. "Do you know her?" he asked. Curious. "Yeah," Henry replied, his voice filled with surprise. "Check my classmate." Kelvin raised his eyebrows, a bit amused. "Well, it looks like she's a big fan of mine," he said, showing Henry the long list of messages Sophia had sent. Henry laughed. He couldn't believe his eyes. Sophia, with all her pride and ego, had been sending Kelvin messages for months without getting any replies. "This is unbelievable," Henry said, shaking his head. Sophia begging for attention. An idea popped into Henry's mind. He looked at Kelvin with a grin. "Cousin, can you do me a favor? Let me reply to her." Kelvin smiled and handed Henry his phone. "Go ahead, let's see what happens." Henry quickly typed a reply, pretending to be. He sent her a WhatsApp contact and said, "Here, message me here, and we'll chat." Within minutes, Sophia sent a flood of messages to Henry, thinking she was talking to Kelvin, the famous singer. She had no idea that it was actually Henry, the boy she had humiliated in front of the entire school. Henry watched the messages pour in. She was being so polite, so different from the arrogant girl at school. Sophia was begging for a response, telling Kelvin how much she admired him and loved his music. As Henry read the messages, he couldn't help but smile. "She has no clue it's me," he thought. The girl who had once destroyed his confidence was now desperate for his attention, all because she thought he was someone else. Before Henry went to bed that night, he thought about his next move. "This could be my chance to teach her a lesson," he thought. The next day at school, Sophia was as rude as ever. She strutted around the hallways acting like she owned the place. After Henry, pretending to be Kelvin, started chatting with Sophia, things took an unexpected turn. Sophia couldn't stop talking about the upcoming school prom. It was a huge event where all the students came with their dates, dressed in fancy clothes, and danced the night away. Sophia, excited about the prom, sent a message to Kelvin. "There's a prom coming up at my school. It's going to be amazing," she typed, smiling as she imagined herself arriving with the popular singer. Henry, grinning at his phone, responded, "Would you like me to come to the prom with you?" Sophia's heart skipped a beat. Without thinking twice, she quickly replied, "Yes, I'd love that." She was so happy. She thought about how everyone would be shocked when they saw her arriving with Kelvin, the famous rising star. She couldn't wait to show off. Meanwhile, in school, all the students were buzzing with excitement. Everyone was talking about the prom. Couples were preparing together, planning their outfits and practicing their dance moves. The students without partners were frantically looking for dates, hoping to find someone before the big night. But Henry, with his big body and awkward appearance, had a hard time finding someone to go with. Whenever he asked a girl, they would turn him down, laughing at him behind his back. It was the same story with Emily, the girl who had stood up for Henry before. No one wanted to go to the prom with her because she was poor. It was a sad situation for both of them, feeling lonely and left out. Henry couldn't bear it any longer. He decided to ask Emily to be his prom date. Nervously, he approached her after school. "Emily," he said shyly, "would you like to go to the prom with me?" Emily, surprised and touched by his offer, smiled warmly. "Yes, Henry," she replied, "I'd love to go with you." Henry felt a wave of relief and happiness. He finally had a date for the prom. But things weren't so simple for Sophia. She now had two dates, her boyfriend and Kelvin. Even though she was supposed to go with her boyfriend, she wanted to make a statement. She craved attention and always liked setting new standards. Sophia broke up with her boyfriend a few days before the prom. "You're no longer on my level," she told him coldly. "I need someone better." Her boyfriend was heartbroken. He had already prepared everything for the prom, imagining they would have a perfect Night together, he couldn't believe that Sophia, the girl he cared for so much, would leave him like this. Sophia, on the other hand, didn't care about his feelings. She was too focused on her dream of walking into the prom with the popular singer Kelvin. She wanted to be the center of attention. The girl everyone talked about, Henry and Emily, began spending a lot of time together. Emily saw how sad Henry was about the prom, so she came up with an idea. She decided to help Henry get in shape and boost his confidence. Emily was always supportive, and that made Henry feel special. They started working out every day after school. Emily even put Henry on a special diet, telling him what to eat, and when Henry took the workouts very seriously, more than anyone could imagine. He couldn't believe how lucky he was to have someone like Emily by his side. At first, they were just pretending to be each other's dates for the prom, but as they spent more time together, something changed. They started liking each other. Every time Emily cheered him on, Henry felt happier. He worked out harder and harder, all because Emily believed in him. Emily would say, "You can do it, Henry, don't give up." Her words made him push himself even more. As the prom got closer, Henry began to look and feel different. His clothes fit better, and his face was full of energy. Emily was proud of how hard Henry was working, and Henry realized how much Emily meant to him. But Henry still had to keep up the act with Sophia. A few days before the prom, pretending to be Kelvin, Henry sent a message to Sophia. "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I can make it to the prom. My car got into an accident, and it's in the shop. I don't know if it'll be fixed in time." Sophia quickly replied, "Oh no, don't worry about it. I can provide a car, and I'll take care of everything for the prom. You just have to show up." Sophia was determined to go to the prom with Kelvin, no matter what it took. She wanted to show everyone that she could have the best date and the most glamorous entrance. But she knew that getting ready for the prom would cost a lot of money, and she didn't want to ask her parents for it. So Sophia did something sneaky while her mom was out. Sophia went into her room and stole two of her most expensive necklaces. They were shiny and made of pure gold, something her mom cherished. Sophia quickly sold one of the necklaces for a lot of money and hid the other one in her room. With the money she got from selling the necklace, Sophia planned to rent a fancy car and buy the most beautiful dress she could find. She smiled to herself, thinking about how everyone would be watching her on prom night. The day before the prom, excitement filled the air at school. Everyone was talking about their outfits, their dates, and how amazing the party was going to be. But at Sophia's house, something terrible was happening. Sophia's mom had just returned home from a shopping trip. When she noticed something was wrong, she went to her room to get ready for a big event, but couldn't find her two most expensive necklaces. She searched every drawer, every box, but they were gone. Panic filled her heart. "Where are my necklaces?" she wondered aloud. Sophia, who was in the living room pretending to be busy, heard her mother's voice and came rushing in. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, acting all concerned. "My necklaces, I can't find them anywhere," her mom replied, clearly worried. Sophia's eyes gleamed with a sly idea. She saw this as the perfect chance to blame Emily's mom for the missing necklace. "Mom," she said, "I think I know what happened earlier today. I saw Emily's mom sneaking into your room. I didn't think much of it then, but now I'm sure she stole the necklaces." Her mom gasped, shocked at the accusation. "Are you sure, Sophia? This is a serious matter." "Yes, Mom, I saw her with my own eyes." "So," Sophia said, pretending to be certain, "you should check her back. She might still have the necklaces with her." Sophia's mother was horrified. She had always trusted Emily's mom, but now she wasn't so sure. With Sophia pushing her, she reluctantly agreed to search her back. When Emily's mom arrived at Sophia's house to help with the evening chores, she had no idea what was waiting for her. Sophia's mom asked her to come into the living room. She looked worried, and Emily's mom felt confused. "Mrs. Johnson, is something wrong?" Emily's mom asked, concerned. Sophia stepped forward, her voice sharp. "We think you took something that doesn't belong to you," she said coldly. "Open your back. We want to see what's inside." Emily's mom froze. "What? No, I didn't take anything," she cried, tears already filling her eyes. "I would never do such a thing." But Sophia insisted. "I saw you sneaking into my mom's room. You stole her necklaces." Sophia's mom, although hesitant, felt she had no choice. She gently asked Emily's mom to open her back. With trembling Hands, Emily's mom, did as she was told. Her heart was pounding in her chest, and she felt so scared and hurt. She had worked for this family for years, and now they thought she was a thief. Sophia's mom started going through the bag, and then something shocking happened. At the very bottom of the bag, she found one of the missing necklaces. How did this get here? Emily's mom gasped, completely stunned. I swear I didn't take it. Tears streamed down her face, but no one seemed to believe her. Sophia stood there hiding her smirk. She had sneaked the necklace into Emily's mom's bag earlier that day, knowing this moment would come. She wanted to make sure the blame didn't fall on her. Where's the second necklace? Sophia's mom